بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب زدني علما.
Okay, so probably in this video, we'll try to see some of the similarities with the different management tools, the config management tools, because whatever the config management tools you are using, they all have the basic similarities. So we'll try to see them. The first one is all the tools requires some CLI or the scripting knowledge. Okay, so whatever the tools you are using, some of the tools will have a similar kind of CLI which resembles the Cisco IWS, similar to that one, which are like, if you are already familiar with Cisco configurations, some of the tools provide the similar options, so it makes your job a little bit easier. But there are some tools which totally uses different kind of language. Like they will be using some kind of languages like YAML, which stands for yet another markup language, or the Ruby scripting language. Now this YAML, or kind of, in that there is a variation, we call it as a Python scripting language. It is a common human readable language which is commonly used for building some config files or the configuration files. Okay, so it is also used by many other applications where the data is being stored or the database being transmitted. So this ML tool is most commonly used in Ansible, and also the SaltStack uses this scripting language, whereas the Ruby is another open source programming language. And again, the syntax is very easy to read and write. So mostly like Chef and Puppet, probably Puppet uses slightly different, uses this Ruby kind based language here. So whatever the tools we are using at the end, or they will be using, there is some kind of scripting required, and depending upon the software what we are using, they will be using slightly different scripting based languages. Apart from that, mostly all the tools supports the GUI, so you don't need to really do each and every task manually or from the command line. So it's more GUI based, and with this GUI you can either schedule the task, or you can also do it manually. You can also manually initiate the specific task with the help of GUI based interface. Now, one more main thing we need to know with all the configuration tools, we need to build the config files or the configuration files with the help of the scripting language. And then we are going to associate that with a GUI based reference. Now what this exactly means is, let's take an example where you want to create some kind of, let's say you want to do some specific task. Now basically, to do those specific tasks, you will be executing those specific set of commands. So probably all those set of commands, you'll be grouping them, and you're going to build some kind of scripts according to the software what we are using. So whatever the language you're using, you're going to build some kind of scripts. Now this specific task can be anything, like with respect to our networks, it can be like you want to create a VLAN, then you have a specific set of commands you will do, and you're going to build a script for that. Or maybe you want to set up some OSPF routing, then there is a specific set of commands you do, and you have to build a script according to the software, whatever the software you're using for config management. Or it can be anything. Or maybe you want to get some information about the networking devices. Normally we use a set of commands like show IP interface brief, show IP route, or show process CPU, those commands. Of course, you have to build the script as per your scripting language. So you have to create a script for each and every task. Okay, so probably these things. And of course, you don't need to really do it manually, because there will be some kind of inbuilt scripts, or the pre-configured templates, you can utilize them. Means you don't need to be an expert in that. You can use some pre-configured templates to do that. So every software has their own templates. Probably you can utilize them. Now once we do this, probably what we are going to do is we are going to build some kind of config file, and this config file is completely built based on the scripting language, and we need to provide this to the software. So probably this is provided, the software is like provided with the config file. Now based on this config file, it is going to use the model, like if you are retrieving the information, it is going to use some kind of pull model where it is going to get the information of your network, or maybe if you're trying to push some of the configurations, so it's going to use some kind of push the configurations, and these all things are done based on the scripts. So all the config management tools, there is some kind of scripting is required at the back end, and that is going to be associated with the GUI of the software. So these are some of the common similarities what you'll find in any management tool or whatever you are using in your network.